Hey friends, welcome back to Priority Messages. In this week's episode, we are talking about a truth that almost nobody wants to hear when it comes to personal growth. It's not motivational poster pretty. It's not something you can wrap up in a cozy little affirmation and stick to a post-it note above your desk. It's blunt and it's uncomfortable and it might sting a little. The truth is this: a very large part of personal growth is really just the process of learning how to lie to yourself less and less until eventually you stop lying to yourself altogether. And listen, I know how that sounds. Nobody likes being told that they are a liar. It feels like an insult. And it is. But hang on, because the reality is that we all lie to ourselves. You do it, I do it, everyone does it. It's part of being human. And if you really want to grow, if you want to change your life in a way that is real and lasting, then at some point you have to face the fact that your biggest obstacle is not other people. It's not your circumstances, not the economy, not the ex who broke your heart, but the little lies that you whisper to yourself every single day. Let's be honest. These lies aren't always huge. It's not always, I don't have a problem, or everything's fine. Sometimes it's just casual ones, like, I'll start tomorrow, or I don't really care what they think, or I'm just tired and that's why I snapped. It's not that big of a deal. It's little excuses, little justifications, little half-truths that pile up in a wall between you and the life that you actually want to live. Why do we do this? Why do we lie to ourselves? Well, the short answer is protection. Self-deception is one of our oldest defense mechanisms. It protects our ego. It protects our comfort zone. It protects the version of ourselves that we want other people to see. When you are struggling with something, say, at home with your partner, if you just tell yourself, I'm not upset, I'm just being grumpy because I'm tired, then, well, you don't have to face what might be a bigger and more difficult truth, like, I feel neglected or unappreciated in this relationship. If you tell yourself, well, I'm just too busy to work out, then you don't have to face the truth, which might be, I don't want to be seen as a beginner or struggling or sweating, or that people are looking at me, or that I'm not good at something. The point here is that lies protect us from discomfort, but they also keep us stuck in ways and situations that simply don't work for us anymore. Here's the thing, though. You cannot grow when you are lying to yourself. It's impossible, because growth requires honesty. Not the polished kind of honesty that you post about on social media. The kind where you say, I'm learning to love myself, and then add a cute filter. I'm talking about the kind of honesty that makes your stomach drop when you even think about confronting it. The kind of honesty that forces you to admit things you'd rather just bury. The real reason why you do the things that you do, or act the way that you act, or continue to repeat patterns that you already know you should have broken a long time ago. And look, learning to be honest with yourself does not happen all at once. Nobody wakes up one day and says, okay, that's it, I will never lie to myself again. No, it's a process. First, you don't even realize you're lying most of the time. You're in total denial. You believe your excuses. You buy your own I'm fine. And that makes it a lot harder until after a while you start to notice some cracks in that story. A little voice in the back of your head says, really? You're fine? Because this does not feel fine. This feels awful. Then you start moving into awareness. And you might still cling to the lie a little bit because the truth feels scarier than that does. Then eventually, if you keep pushing, you reach the stage where you reluctantly admit that truth to yourself, quietly, privately. You might not act on it yet, but you at least stop denying it. And then finally, there's radical honesty. That's the place where you rip the Band-Aid off completely and tell yourself the raw, unfiltered truth, even when it's super uncomfortable. And from there, only from there, you can actually change in a significant manner. In other words, people tend to actually change for the better when they come to a point that they themselves are tired and they're sick of their own BS. And they have finally been honest with themselves about it. That's where monumental shifts happen, friends. And those tend to be monumental shifts that not only change for the better, but that stick for the long term too. The problem here, though, is that most people never get past partial awareness. They live their whole lives knowing something isn't right, knowing their excuses are flimsy, but not being willing to face the full truth. And that's why they stay stuck. Self-awareness without honesty is really just self-torture with a nicer, friendlier sounding name. So what does it look like to start being honest with yourself? It starts with catching deflections. How often do you hear yourself say, "It's fine," or "I don't care," or when somebody says, "I'm sorry," and you say, "It's okay," when it's not okay? 9 times out of 10, that's a lie. Not because you're being malicious, but again, because you're trying to protect yourself. Another big one is track your excuses. Excuses are just really lies in like a cuter outfit. "I'll start next week. I just don't have time." If you've repeated the excuse more than a couple of times, then that is not a reason anymore. It's avoidance. And here's a practical tip. Pay attention to how your body feels when you tell yourself these things. Most of us can actually feel the lie. There's a little tightness, a little resistance. Your body knows, even if your brain needs a little more pushing to see it clearly. Another step, learn to sit with discomfort. The reason we lie to ourselves is because the truth makes us uncomfortable, right? It challenges us, it pushes us. But that discomfort is exactly where growth is hiding. If you can sit with it instead of running from it or numbing it or scrolling your way out of it, you're 100 times more likely to find clarity on the other side. And sometimes you need a truth mirror, someone who reflects the real story back to you. It could be a therapist, a mentor, or even a blunt friend who isn't afraid to say, "You know, that's not true, right?" We need people in our lives who aren't invested in maintaining our illusions. Everybody, and I mean everybody, needs a friend who tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, because they are often very different things. People who do this in your life are damn priceless gifts. This doesn't mean that you won't still get mad at them sometimes for calling you out. You are probably still going to be like, "How absolute dare you tell me the truth about how I'm acting when I'm over here trying to cosplay being something different? Who do you think you are anyway?" I'll tell you who they are. Your real friends, your real family, your real partner, your real whatever that person is to you. Real ones. Real ones don't sit by and clap and cheer while you drive your life off a cliff. Real ones ask you, "WTF are you doing?" the loudest. I won't go off on a tangent here, but you should really listen to them. Just trust me on this, okay? Anyway, getting back to the point, let's talk about something about radical self-honesty that surprises most people. When you start doing this, being truly honest with yourself, your life actually gets a lot lighter, because lying is heavy, pretending is exhausting, and carrying around all those excuses is like dragging these bags of bricks everywhere that you go. When you drop them, you stop pretending, and then you just don't grow. You actually begin to feel free. And I want to be clear, honesty doesn't make life painless. You're still going to deal with challenges. You're still going to have to face heartbreak and disappointment, and you're still going to stumble and fall sometimes. But honesty strips away some of the extra suffering that comes with these things, the unnecessary suffering, the kind that comes from carrying these stories about what we have been telling ourselves about who we are that were never true to begin with. So here's the truth about personal growth. It's not about becoming some shiny, perfect, enlightened version of yourself. It's not about crossing a finish line and then suddenly, voila, like magic, you're healed. It's about learning day by day to stop lying to yourself about who you are, about what you feel, about what you want, about what you're afraid of. And when you stop lying, when you start telling yourself the truth, even when it hurts, that's when the real growth can begin to happen. Because, as they say, the truth will always set you free, but first, it's probably going to really piss you off. It'll sting. It'll make you uncomfortable. But on the other side of that is freedom and lightness and self-respect. So, if you want to grow, start there with the truth, your truth. Stop covering it up with excuses. Give it a name. Say it out loud. And don't just tell yourself what it is. Embrace it. Tell others. Oh, and before we go, if this episode hit home, share it with someone else who might need a little nudge towards honesty too, that can help them in their growth journey. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.